Hello, ladies, and welcome to our course, the 17th of June. We're hopping on, talk a little bit about Ultimate Portion Fix and Fixate, and seeing how you're getting on, really. So, both of you two have been using your little pots.
Tubs.
I've got like they're normally on my shelf, but I was showing someone them yesterday. They were like, well, how big are they? And I was like, well, it looks small, but you can get a lot of food in these boxes. And they were like, no. And I was like, well, look at my stories. And I showed, and she was like, oh, actually, yeah, that is quite a lot of food. So yeah, they're sitting on my desk. I thought it would be cool to go over a few FAQs, but also for you guys to let me know how you're getting on. Fire any questions at me that you've got, what you're struggling with, what, you know, I think when I first started doing Fixate, I was like, oh, well, what's this and what's that? And can I do this and can I do that? And they were just a few things that they're sort of tips and hints, which I hope will help you. And kind of as you kind of do the program more, you'll start to kind of get more of a grip of it and that sort of stuff. But kind of doing the master coach certification with Autumn last year, about a year ago, there was some kind of like extra things that obviously, like, that's what I've picked up and why I decided to do the master coach stuff, which hopefully I can impart some knowledge and hopefully it will be helpful for you. So I don't know, did you want to both, I don't know, do you want to start by just letting me know, or just sharing how long you've been doing it, how you're finding it, what's working, what you're struggling with, and then we can kind of go from there. Is that cool?
Yes.
Fab. Who wants to go first?
I don't mind.
Off you go then, Chloe.
Okay, so I've been doing the pots for a week. Kind of successfully, maybe, in my own little way.
Yeah.
I'm definitely eating a lot more of the green pots than I would have been on my usual diet, but that's kind of because I have a husband who eats beige and a toddler. So you kind of end up just eating what's quick, easy, and everyone will eat. So this last week's been quite tricky. But I have felt a lot better for it.
That's good.
I don't get any of the orange pots in.
Yeah, okay.
But that's because I don't have any of those things in my cupboard.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I probably eat more fruit than I should.
Okay.
But apart from that, I think I've been pretty good.
That's cool. That's awesome. And how about you, Melinda?
So I've just started my, I think, third week. I think, am I one or two? I can't remember now. Second week, I think.
Yeah.
So for me, I've struggled to be able to eat all the protein, but I know that's where I was going wrong anyway. So that's been quite good, but I've been hitting all my pots fine. And where I struggle with protein, I'll just do like a protein powder. That's been fine, but I've been struggling. I haven't gone over anything, but I have struggled in that I'm relearning a new way of eating, if that makes sense. So I would always probably have a couple more carbs than what I do at the moment. I would definitely have a lot more nuts than I would normally. I'd have a lot more fruit normally. I'm not really a crisps or chocolate or cakes person. So that I haven't missed that because I didn't really eat it anyway. But things like my habits, that's been quite hard mentally. I've missed I'll just grab a handful of nuts or just having a bit of fruit. It's like, oh no, I can't because they're done, they're gone. Do you know what I mean? It's really, so I'm having to really retrain myself, but that's what I wanted to do because I knew my macronutrients were all out because I was all carbs and fats in that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think I just need to be more organized than what I am,
Yeah.
because I'm a lazy vegan anyway, worst ever. And yeah, I'm not separating like the little meals, because of when I'm working or I'm doing stuff, it's kind of like I'll like have my coffee in the morning, and then it's like, oh shit, it's 10:30, I haven't eaten yet. And then at the end of the evening, I'm thinking, oh, I've got another 3 veg to fit in, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I need to do it better.
It's all in the prepping and the planning. I've got some tips for you specifically actually about that then. If you're not eating till 10:30 with your energy, and she when I say she, Autumn, the she beast. Yeah, eating within an hour of getting up. So that's what I've started. I've gone back to Ultimate Portion Fix, because it makes me sound like a bit of a dick. I'm going to say that it makes me sound like a bit of a knob, but I was doing 2B, but I feel that I'm losing weight too quickly, and that's, for me, isn't the goal at the moment. I don't want to bother my milk supply and all of that sort of stuff. So I've actually switched back to UPF, because I want to be I need to be more energized. I was getting really tired, like mid-morning and mid-afternoon, and I was finding that I would need more food, even though I'd had like a big breakfast and a big lunch, because with 2B you eat 3 times a day essentially, and I was just finding my energy was really dropping. And one of the things that Autumn says is you have to eat within an hour of waking up.
Yeah.
So getting something in. So I have my the last couple of mornings I've been having my recover with my energized before I do my workout. But yeah, so like kind of that's something that definitely, if you're finding low energy, it's definitely something to go for. But there's another couple of tips about what you can kind of do if you're still kind of feeling that way. So I'll go through them. What I will do then is I'll pop through some of the FAQs that kind of come up, and you guys just fire questions at me if you've got questions about what I'm talking about, if that makes sense, because this is a whole learning process. Like, it takes a while. Like I say to people, don't get bogged down with like the detail at first, like, you know, and don't stress about it, because once you start getting into a rhythm of it and you understand it, it just becomes quite second nature. It's like, oh, I'm eating breakfast, I'm having a green, a red, a yellow, a teaspoon. You just kind of, and I actually set alarms in my phone.
I was thinking about that actually, whether to do that,
because I did timed nutrition. Now I won't dive into timed nutrition too much, but in terms of making sure you are eating, and then you don't get to the end of the day and have like 5 containers left and be like, oh shit, well, I'm not going to eat at 10 o'clock at night. I've got a few tips to help you with that sort of stuff as well. So I know you've watched quite a lot of the videos already, Melinda, so I'm probably teaching you to suck eggs on a couple of these things.
No, because I won't remember it all.
Okay, cool. So a lot of the time, like, one of the big questions that I get asked a lot is, so hold on a minute, I can only use the Fixate recipes that are in the back, you know, in bod. Now, they've obviously put the cookbooks together and put all of those recipes together, and all of that stuff is on there to make it a lot easier. And that's one of the reasons why you'll notice that it's got especially a lot of the American favorites. So you've got things like, you know, I don't know, they've got like sloppy joes on there, and they've got meatloaf, and they've got mac and cheese, and they've got all these different things, specifically because they know that those are quite common meals that people tend to go to. Now, it's not saying that you can't go and use other recipes, but what she tries to sort of say is that, you know, if they're quite complex recipes, it's much harder to work out what your pot count is, your container count is, and breaking it up. So it just makes your life a bit more complicated in terms of trying to do it. And it's about having fun with our food and what we're kind of doing. And yeah, I suppose that's the kind of thing. So it's not that you can't use the non-fix ones, but it's trying to keep it more simple for you by not having to then kind of deconstruct a recipe, work out how many servings and all the rest of it. Plus, what's always quite helpful is that she's always got the container count. So we made today the Fixate banana bread, and I was like, if I do, now I make banana bread with Lila at least once a week. I never know what I'm, you know, I would not have a clue what the recipes are, you know, what the container count is for what portion size. But today I actually now knew, and I was like, that's quite cool. So if you're thinking, oh, actually, we're going to try this, we're going to do this recipe. So I wanted to do quinoa again. I can't fucking cook quinoa to save my bloody life, but I made it, but I followed some of the recipes. I had to slightly adapt them because there was things that I didn't have in the cupboard, but you can, like, I've been looking at them for inspiration to be able to be like, right, what can we do and how can I do it? And you know, there's loads of seasoning mixes and that sort of stuff, so do go and have a look and be like, oh, my goal is to each week try a new recipe. So doing something, being like, right, okay, what's there, what can I try, you know, to kind of give a bit more variety and make it a bit more interesting, because I want to have fun for this, and it shouldn't be like labor intensive of like, oh bloody hell, this is, you know, let's try and make it simple. So that's why, you know, those recipes are quite cool, because it takes the guesswork out of it, I guess. People ask a lot about oil in cooking and how to account for oil. So Autumn likes to use the spray. I've got a spray, but you can obviously, but you try and use a teaspoon. I know I have a habit of picking up a bottle of olive oil and like just chucking it in. And actually you probably use a lot more, and it probably doesn't add a huge amount of difference. Depends what you're cooking, but try with a teaspoon and that's measurable. That's much more measurable than it is if you were to, like, you know, just glug it in. So she always says do that first. There's obviously, with the deep dives on the food list, there is obviously certain oils that she prefers, but you know, a bit of a spray oil, you don't need to worry about counting it. It's a couple of calories, I think, you know, just take it. So I think that's something to do. Always people ask how quickly you're going to get results. Everyone varies, and I think part of the journey and part of the process is about working out what is right for you, and it very much depends on what your body likes. So for example, you know, really you should probably start to see changes in your energy and, you know, how clothes are fitting, maybe the scales, in about 3 weeks. They probably say, you know, it takes probably 3 weeks to really start doing it, but your body has to adjust. So when you start something new, it really is, you know, so for me, I know that so with 2B, you don't eat as much carbs and fruit. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got all of this carbs and fruit. So I actually expect to see the scale go up, because I'm changing the composition of what my my nutrition is looking like. So it is going to fluctuate at first, and it takes a while for your body to adapt. And that can often come with, and one of the things that Autumn does say, actually, Melinda, is you might find that your energy plummets at points because your body is going through this, like what she calls it, like a detox phase, where it's like trying to, you know, I'm not necessarily saying that you're eating crap, but your body is trying to move from a place where it's been before to kind of, you know, get going again. And once, you know, she's broken, you've got that pot count for a certain reason, because it really is split on those macros, and by sticking to that, it takes your body a while to go through that process. And often, I don't know about you guys, but when I start an healthy eating plan, all of a sudden I get outbreaks like this bit. And it's because obviously there was something not quite in balance in my body, so it's come out in my skin. I think it's hormonal as well, but you know, that does happen. So we all lose weight differently, our journeys are all different, but you know, you can probably in 3 weeks, but it does take time. I'd much rather people do this, you know, it's not about it. I think I've said to both of you before, it's not about a quick fix, it's about trying to get a balanced and a sustainable way. And people are like, well, you can't fill a box every time you eat. No, but you will start to get to a point when you've been doing it long enough that actually you're like, do you know what, actually you can start eyeballing stuff. And then what I do is I'll pull out the containers once or so a week, or once every couple of weeks, just to double check that I'm not going a bit too crazy. But you actually start to get into a rhythm, and you can then start to intuitively eat more because you've understood and learned the system. So I think that's what it is. I guess what I would say about that. Now, a lot of people then they're like, well, I'm putting on weight, or my inches have gone up. And when I then start to talk to people about that, they're like, okay, you need to be honest, I guess, with yourself first of all. But sort of like, okay, so am I eating all my containers? Because if you don't necessarily eat them all, that can also be a negative. People are like, oh, I'll just skip these containers. Oh, I don't need as much as that. It's in there for a reason. Autumn just says, suck it up, buttercup, and eat it. Which I find really difficult, because I'm the same. I struggle to get my orange box in. I really struggle to get it in. But you know, there's always small shifts, and it's often, you know, those 1% little tweaks here and there that actually then you change this. And Kim, one of the coaches, so she said, Hannah, I don't understand what's going on. My inches have gone up, the scales has gone up, I'm now classed as overweight. What am I doing wrong? I'm eating on plan A. I'm doing this, this, and this. She actually wasn't eating enough. She started eating in plan B, and she's lost 4 pounds in the last week.
Oh, interesting.
Sometimes it's you think like, oh, okay. And that's one of the things we also might want to do with you, Melinda, is we might want to bump you up a plan.
I have been sometimes doing an extra protein, or doing like an extra teaspoon of peanut butter, because I love that. Because I've been using the spray for my cooking, which I haven't really counted, because I just do a couple of sprays, or I do a couple of sprays in my salad and then put apple cider vinegar on it. But yeah, I have like an extra peanut butter and try and do an extra protein. I just need to be more organized and do better flavor, because I'm getting bored because I'm doing the same stuff, because I'm lazy. I am a lazy food pun.
I am as well, which is why
I need a chef.
You're a fitness coach, and you someone said to me the other day, all you have is these shakes? I'm like, no, it's just because I'm lazy. I need the shake because I'm lazy in the other parts of my thing.
Yeah.
But actually, my plates look so bloody boring. So I'm the same. I'm a lazy one as well. So one of the things I know, Melinda, you're and Chloe, I know what you were saying about like partners and stuff like that in terms of food. So I'm making Nick do it. He's lost 4 pounds this week.
Yeah, my husband lost 6 pounds.
That's amazing.
And then the second week he lost another pound. He's losing more than me. But he eats differently to me. He's not a veggie, so.
Yes.
But yeah, he's doing great.
But so one of the things I'm trying to do is we just have the same meals. He'll just have more of it. And actually, he said to me, I'm not doing that stupid container thing. Like, it's too much of a faff. So I'm like, well, I'm at home. I will do it for you. You don't have to do anything.
Oh, I want a wife.
Well, I've got the kids. I said to Nick, because it was keeping me entertained. I'm like thinking, like, what are we eating next? All I'm thinking about is food, which is hilarious. So I mean, like, I've been trying to cook in bulk. So I did like a load of quinoa, which has then like done 3 meals. Because I can't cook quinoa. I don't know. But now we're going to be moving. Touch wood. Oh my god! I'll tell you about that in a bit. Shit, it's been the most stressful day in, don't know, a long time. Like, kids are nowhere near as stressful as moving house. But yeah, it's just I've now got to eat the stuff that's in my cupboards and in my freezer. So this is going to be an interesting few weeks of eating. It's going to be fun. There we go. We'll see. So what if I'm still hungry? So it's worth checking in on whether it's habit, whether it's boredom, and those types of things. So I would argue that if you are eating all your containers and splitting them out throughout the day, you are probably not hungry, you are probably thirsty, or it's habit or it's boredom. So I know for me, definitely, we watch, you know, if we sit down and watch a film, Nick goes and gets the crisps or the popcorn. Or, you know, if something's stressful, like Nick said to me today, he's like, I really want a glass, you know, he's like, I really want like a really heavy, like a, you know, a really strong drink. But it's kind of like, that's like a habit, it's like an emotional kind of reaction. So it's checking in on those things first. Have you had all your water? Are you getting all your containers in? Are you, you know, have you eaten within an hour of getting up? Have you spaced out your containers and not like loading everything in one go? Are you having more? So she always also talks about having more than just like one at a go, which I also find slightly odd, because actually I think in the bar blend container split, you have a fruit with nothing. So I don't quite get that. But anyway, you know, there's probably things that aren't necessarily physical hunger. You know, are you getting enough sleep? It's all of that sort of stuff, which is what I was saying to you, Chloe. There's a number of different things we can kind of check through to work out first, what is it, and then that sort of stuff. And then if you are still feeling really hungry after, you know, have your water, make sure you've got all, you know, and then she'll say, okay, have a purple, have some more fruit if you're really, really feeling hungry. Because actually, especially when we're switching to something like this, and if you're used to kind of having quite a bit of sugar, like, you know, actually it can also be a bit of a crash, of a sugar crash, which she does go into. And I won't go into too much into sugar cravings and stuff today, but our body is kind of still trying to, it takes a while for it to recalibrate.
Yeah, I agree.
So she also said, people will say, so fall in between the brackets. So I'm at the moment, I'm sitting only 8 calories into plan C. I'm eating on plan C, which is mentally, I'm struggling to get my containers in. So I'm in the ride with you for this one. But she sort of says about, oh, you know, people say, oh, well, when I drop to this weight, I know I've got to go down a bracket. What Autumn says is stick in a bracket for 4 weeks, see how you go, and even if you have dropped, just wait for 4 weeks and see where it happens. Because although you might have that target weight in mind, it's not about being a certain, you know, it's trying to move away from that number on the scales and more about how you're feeling in your body, both in terms of, you know, mental energy, clarity, all of that sort of stuff, how your clothes are fitting and all of those types of things. So I'd much prefer you to do that, I guess. Other things like sweet cravings and that sort of stuff, that's one of the reasons why she's done so many different fixate sweet things. So I know that especially with feeding, like my sweet tooth is mental, hence why I've been making banana bread, but also doing things like eating slower and that sort of stuff, and really enjoying your treats. So this is kind of things that I pick up from 2B mindset, is actually mindfully eating. So we often like sit down in front of the telly, Nick gets the crisps, and I'm just doing this, and I have no, and I'm like, oh shit, there's no crisps, and we're eating a whole great big bag of crisps. I'm like, that is mental. So it's about, you know, don't, you know, when you have treats, of course have treats, but mindfully eat them and really enjoy them. And sitting down and, you know, not watching telly while you're eating and all of that sort of stuff. They're kind of really good little tips that she talks about. Things with with kind of cravings and things, you know, remembering that it's probably not actually, our body isn't craving it, it's just that we want it and it's become kind of a habit. So that is often what it is. Having your water, my go-to thing is, especially if I fancy something sweet, I've got a couple of things that I will always jump to. So I mean, I've always got my Shakeology, but having like Greek yogurt and stuff in the fridge, then I just add a bit of my shake to it, and then it's really nice and sweet. Chuck a couple of raisins on it or some strawberries or whatever. Alana with 2B mindset, she also does these amazing things called Wonder Whips. Honestly, Google them. I'll see if I can find some recipes. They are amazing, and they are really, really good for like curbing sweet, if you've got a kind of sweet tooth. But if you are finding you are consistently hungry, you're consistently lethargic, you're still getting enough sleep, you're getting all your water in, you're being really true with your tracking, and you really are eating all your containers and all the rest of it, Autumn says go up a bracket and eat in a higher bracket. She eats in C, and she's like 110 pounds, she's like 7 stone or something ridiculous, and she eats in plan C, and she's not trying to lose weight obviously, but she's not gaining weight. So kind of goes to show, I guess. I'm not going to talk about keto because it makes me angry. But I do get some people, one of the things that you might have picked up in the video, Melinda, if you've watched the FAQ one, is that people ask a lot about, does this work with keto? Does it work with intermittent fasting and all of that sort of stuff? Well, no, because keto is a very different diet, and you're cutting out things, and being in a ketonic state is not good for your body,
or your brain,
or anything. But there we go. So in the first couple of weeks, one of the things to remember is it depends how much you are shifting your nutritional intake. But one of the things that people will find, but often say to me, is they go into the toilet a lot, or they're not going enough. So that can sometimes happen. So there's obviously a couple of things for that. So if you're kind of finding that all of a sudden you're going to the toilet a lot, it's probably because there was a lot of the nutritional content that you're getting throughout the macro and micronutrients from all the different containers. It's because your body's like, whoa. Same with when you have Shakeology. I tell you what, I never once had pregnancy constipation. Even when I was on iron tablets, I was like, oh, and I was only allowed 1 scoop of Shakeology every day, and that did do my head in ever so slightly, because I was like, I need more. But yeah, it's about our body adjusting. So people often have it and they're like, it made me go to the loo. Well, it's because your body is detoxing. So it's the same if you're eating, when you're having all your containers, because the macronutrients are really split, it's going to happen. Now, sometimes people say they get constipated. I'm not going to ask you what your bowel movements are, but sometimes people say they get constipated, and it's just often working out what you're eating. And it's like working out, okay, well, what you need to do if you're constipated, we need to try and get you eating things that have got a bit more, that are a bit more fibrous, or have got a bit more water based. So as in eating more things like cucumber and that sort of stuff, which is, they've got more water in them than kale. Okay. I find it so odd that kale is the first food on the list. I don't know why, but I don't know what it is. So that can often be what it is. And also, if you're finding that you're constipated, up in your water, all of that sort of stuff, it's kind of, some of the basic stuff. I did have, my sister-in-law has started on Fixate, and she said, but I don't like vegetables. I'm like, well, you're a grown-up. Eat your vegetables. You're not your toddler. Eat your vegetables, and try cooking them in different ways. There's so many different ways you can. There's so many recipes, and if you're struggling, and also go to the 2B mindset recipe bit as well, because they have got loads and loads of like veggie recipes, and in the blog, like, there is so much stuff on there. Honestly, you are spoiled for choice, so just kind of keep going. One of the things that I have noticed is I had a killer headache today. Now that's because I'm trying not to have as much caffeine, but oh, hold on, my phone keeps going off. What is that doing? Oh my gosh. Also, it's not good for the baby. I've been so tired because I've not been eating enough, or I've not been getting enough nutrients in, that I needed the caffeine. But that kind of takes a while. Make sure you do your tracking. So do your tracking either in the app or in your book, and be really real with yourself in terms of what you are eating. Did you have a lick? Alana calls them BLTs, bites, licks and tastes. I'm forever in the kitchen, like clearing up after Lila, and I'm like, I end up eating a load of extra stuff, and then, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, well, the scales hasn't moved. Well, it's probably because I'm not kind of being right true with myself. She always talks about eating on the top third of the food list because they're the most nutrient dense. So that is always something to go with, especially if you're feeling tired or, you know, you're not feeling full, is go to those top thirds because they've got the best nutrients in them. So we are back to our sweet potatoes, and the sweet potato that came was like this. I was like, that is nuts. I'm going to have to, but actually, if you do sweet potato mash, you can get a lot in one of those little containers. I was like, wow, that is more than a small sweet potato. Anyway, we won't go to that. Things like sleep. When we don't sleep enough, we retain water. So that is something, I know that that's not necessarily possible all the time. But also she talks about a lot about rest. And, you know, in 21 Day Fix, you've got your yoga day. And actually, you know, we're doing bar and it's 5 days a week. I know I do workouts on my weekends, which you don't have to necessarily do, but making sure that you have a day for self-care and kind of rest and recuperation and that sort of stuff is kind of really important, because what happens when we are under stress or we're doing a lot of workouts, our cortisol levels rise, and actually that's, you know, that's the kind of stress hormone. So we need to make sure that we are recuperating and stuff as well. One of the things to say about the containers, so in terms of splitting them out, now there is a way that you can do time nutrition. Time nutrition is great, but it stresses me out, so I don't do it. But one of the things that I do try and do is I do try and make sure that I know what I'm having for each meal, roughly. So I know for my breakfast that I have a green, a purple, a red, a yellow, and a teaspoon. So I know that every morning, and I have a consistent breakfast, and that's something that I've kind of picked up from 2B, because then I know every day that's what I'm having, and then I have something different at the weekend. But knowing what you're eating, what version of your pots you're eating at each meal, it just means that it takes the guesswork out of it. So you don't get to the end of the day, you're like, oh, I've got 2 greens left, or I've got, because my dad does that, and my dad, he drives me nuts with this. He'll go, I ate 15 of my 20 pots. I'm like, no, that defeats the point, because if you've eaten all your carbs, all your healthy fats, and you've not eaten any of your greens, you're missing out on a load of nutrients. So, you know, she's put that split in. So do go and take a look at, I think we were already looking at it, weren't we, Melinda, about, you know, Bar Blend and how she's got it split out and, you know, what you can do, and you can moving those around and seeing what works for you. Autumn always suggests trying to get in your yellow container by 5 p.m. because come the evening before you go to bed, you don't need all that extra energy. I mean, obviously, if you are feeling, you know, we talked about adding another purple in, but you don't need energy just before you go to bed, which for me is a bit of a different mind shift, because I'm like, that's when my sugar cravings hit. So, okay, you know, go to a fruit. But really, she kind of talks about, do try and make sure if you get all your containers in, you shouldn't feel hungry. Your energy should be sustainable, and if you are kind of splitting them in a way, then that is kind of really going to help, because but actually skipping out the pots isn't going to speed up your weight loss or speed up your results. And actually, you know, we find when we bump people's brackets up, they lose weight, or their body composition changes, because, you know, their muscle mass is increasing and they're dropping the body fat and all of that sort of stuff. So you shouldn't overeat it with this either, and I think that that's kind of quite helpful. If you fall off one day, it's fine, just get back on it the next meal. We don't have to kind of wait for Monday. I did a post about that. I was definitely I'll start Monday girl. and it would be Tuesday, I'd be like, oh, I'll start next Monday, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? So I completely get it. But so she does say, so with hunger, so if you're really, really hungry, we've spoken about like, you know, some of the sugar stuff, but if you are still really hungry, she says add a green first. If you're still hungry after you've eaten your green, add a red, and if you're still hungry after that, add a yellow. So that's kind of a nice, like, right, I am really, really hungry, I'll add more greens. Do you see what I mean? So you can kind of do it that way. Those were kind of the basic things I wanted to kind of say. I think, you know, definitely keeping the fun in it and experimenting with different recipes and having, you know, it not letting it stress you out. Being organized is really helpful, and I'm not organized at all. And I think what I will do tonight is I will dive into my cupboard and work out what I'm going to eat tomorrow. But having, like, so one of the things that I've also done as well, and it's something that I picked up from 2B, was about getting frozen fruit and vegetables and like a load of freezer stuff, because then, like tonight, I was like, oh gosh, what are we going to have with this? Well, we've got a load of tender stem broccoli in the freezer. I can just whap out some tender stem broccoli. Or I've been putting like spinach or kale, you get them in blocks, and I've been chucking that in my shake in the morning to get my extra green. You know, so there's always things like that. It's much easier than like, oh, well, we haven't got any fresh stuff. Well, frozen stuff doesn't take that long to defrost, and actually it's often been frozen fresh. So it's, you know, fresh is best, but frozen is better than nothing. Better than nothing.
I actually quite like, I've been putting frozen butternut squash in my shake, and it makes it almost like a pudding. So you're like having an ice cream in your Shakeology. It's yummy.
That's amazing. I've not done that.
Yeah, because you can't taste it at all, but it makes it really thick, like a ice creamy mousse.
Yeah.
With my teaspoon of peanut butter, obviously, on top.
I think we're going to run out of time in a second. I'm sorry, I've spoken a lot and then not given you time to ask any questions.
No, that's been really useful.
Did you
have inspired me? Huh?
Did you have any questions?
No, I know. I just need to organise my life. That's what I need to do. If that's all it is.
How about you, Chloe?
I don't think I've got any questions. I mean, I'm still kind of learning as such on different things and like what I can have with what. The downside is obviously red meat isn't really a good thing.
Yeah. No.
But I'm trying to think of things where if we are having red meat, maybe I have more vegetables and things rather than trying to balance it out a bit. I don't really know how to do it all and keep everyone happy in the house. And without spending a fortune on having everybody eating something different.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And actually, and that's why frozen stuff works really well as well, because it's a lot cheaper, I find.
Yeah.
And just find it, and maybe, you know, maybe sit down and go like, right, look, these are all the recipes, what will you eat? Give it a go. You never know, Chloe, you might inspire some change.
Yeah.
Oh, bless. It is hard. I haven't got any kids. I can't imagine what it'd be like doing that as well.
Oh, Lila's a nightmare. I'm trying to teach her, like we had the containers out and we were putting her